Hey everybody, it's DG here, or D-Guns, Double Guns, whatever you want to call me. This is a type of video that I've never tried to even remotely make before. I've never really thought to do it either. I've never really had a reason to want to do it. It might come off as a bit weird, I don't know, but I feel like it's a decent way to express the thoughts that I've been feeling about Concord recently. Basically, for those unaware, my favorite podcast is Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast, hosted by Colin Moriarty, Chris Raygun, and Dustin Furman. They're all fantastic hosts. If anyone's watching this that doesn't know what Last Stand Media is or what Sacred Symbols is, I highly recommend you go and check out their channel on YouTube or on various podcast services. They even have their own Patreon, and they do great work over there. I hope this video doesn't come off like I'm trying to pose an argument or something. I just generally want to have better conversations about Concord, and that's all. Mad respect to all of you. And I'm hoping this video reaches them because I have a lot to say about Concord, and I feel like I've just become one of somewhat few prominent Concord people all of a sudden, which I was never really intending to be, but here I am. I feel like I have some sort of platform to do this now, so I'm going to give it my best shot. Concord is getting absolutely shit on and beat into the dirt, and it might be at this point the best shooter that I've ever played. It's definitely my favorite one of the last 5, 6, 7 years, Rainbow Six Siege being the last one that I truly was like really impressed with. And to see what has happened to this game is like so offensive to me. I feel very passionate about going out of my way at this point to try to make sure that people realize what they're missing out on. Now, the point of this video is that I'm trying to speak directly to the sacred hosts, which maybe it's going to come off as a little weird. Apologies if it does. But as a big fan of the podcast, I've picked up on certain trends that Colin or Chris or Dustin will bring up and issues they have with the gaming industry. And honestly, it's influenced me a lot in terms of how I look at the game industry and what things I look for and how people talk about games and how people, especially with Concord now, are talking around it and not about it. And it's all negativity. All the positive things that are being said about it are about the game. All the negative things that are being said about it surround the game, except for the characters' designs, of course. That's valid. Anyways, I want to speak to them, maybe give you a different perspective from somebody who feels like I feel like I know a lot about video games. I've played a lot of video games, so I've written a little bit of a script here, and I'm going to read it, and I'm hoping that you guys watch it. And I also think it would be really cool if somehow I could get onto Sacred Symbols Plus and do an episode with one or more of you, because this game is being very misrepresented and it's very unfair. And I'm kind of just sick of this happening. Not just to this game, this is indicative of a lot of other games too. It's just a problem generally. It's just that Concord right now is like an example for more than one problem. And I want to put this message out there. So here's what I have to say. I'm also aware there's probably a few people in the Concord community that don't like Colin for one dumb reason or another. Between that and the people that are going to come to this video specifically to hate on it because I'm talking positively about Concord, I'm sure the comment section will be an absolute disaster. But I'm going to do it anyways. You mentioned on the last episode that you're getting tired of people pushing the boundaries of their arguments and that gaming has the wrong people in place to communicate their ideas. For instance, deeming Tales of Kenzera a woke DEI game. I wrote into you 2 weeks back and you read my comment on the show. Thanks for that. In that, I compared the game to Concord and you kinda dismissed my point. As someone who has been deeply involved in the Concord community, as small as it currently is, I want to reiterate that the same crowd has absolutely gone after this game simply because there are pronouns in the game. The same crowd that called your wife a DEI wife, which is quite literally insane. They have desperately tried to silence the marketing and positivity for this game and are partially the reason that that has succeeded. There are two other crowds, the people that refuse to spend money on a multiplayer game and the people that think Concord's existence is the reason PS5 doesn't have more first-party games. More specifically, single-player games. And there's also people boycotting it because of the whole issue with Helldivers and the PSN account stuff. There's just so many angles to this. Concord is like the perfect storm of negativity right now, which is crazy because it's so good. It's actually insane what is happening. I don't want to go into more specific detail on either of those right now, but if you want more information, I did just post a video a few days ago about this very subject. Multiple parties want Concord dead for multiple reasons. They are not coordinating with each other, but they are inadvertently helping each other accomplish just that. Unfortunately, since these initiatives have succeeded, now that people are slowly catching on to how good the game actually is, everyone thinks it's too late. Now people that were on the fence or were unaware want to stay away because they think the game is dead or will die soon. That is the problem with Concord. Concord is the best shooter I've played since Rainbow Six Siege's first couple of years. It feels incredibly smooth to play, and I think it does so many things better than most, if not all, of its competition. The backlash and hate train has gotten so out of control that this has, in my opinion, become the biggest incorrect take the gaming industry has had in recent years. There's no other game that I've enjoyed this much that has received this much hate, vitriol, misinformation, and lack of understanding. For some background information, I may be a tiny streamer and YouTube video maker, but I do consider myself very well versed on gaming as a whole. I've played almost 800 games across many platforms and genres. I'm a huge fan of FromSoft, Nintendo, PlayStation, Capcom, Drinkbox, Supergiant, Larian, Tango, and many more. I've also thoroughly enjoyed a bunch of different multiplayer shooters, such as Call of Duty from 2007 to 2011-ish, Rainbow Six Siege, Battlefield 1, Titanfall 2, more recently, the Finals was great, but I didn't want to support it because it's free to play. To give context to how I've determined Concord is so fantastic is because I genuinely compare it to the following games the most in terms of game feel and overall quality and flow state. These are the things that matter most to me in a shooter usually, and they're pristine here. The games that come to mind are Doom 2016 and Eternal, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, Titanfall 2, Returnal, Call of Duty in general, and Destiny 2. It feels like they took the way characters from these games feel and made them their own unique character. This game is what you would get if you put Dante, Doomslayer, Celine from Returnal, Ratchet, a Call of Duty soldier, Master Chief, the dude from Vanquish, Cole from Infamous, whoever else, in various mismatched action game characters and just like made a shooter out of it. Do you know what games this doesn't feel like at all? Overwatch and Valorant. Two games that keep getting directly compared to. People keep saying, oh, we already have hero shooters and they're free, why would we want this? Because it's significantly better than those in terms of game feel, smoothness, and animation quality, among other things. The weapons in this game have incredibly satisfying feedback. Shooting has never felt so smooth and punchy. I cannot overstate how good the game feels to move around in. The parkour is great due to how the maps are laid out. There aren't any awkwardly slanted invisible walls either that Chris pointed out with X-Defiant, which I'm also not a fan of. The maps feel like nice little playgrounds for creative battles. What absolutely baffles me here is the fact that Chris is not shitting himself over how good this game is. Unfortunately, what I think is happening is that the game is bad with onboarding new people. I actually just played Valorant for the first time today, and the tutorial that it set me up with to learn the game was really great. And if Concord had that, especially in the beta, I think we'd be in a different position right now. Concord doesn't really do a great job of explaining the core concepts. In the discussions Chris has had on Sacred and Summon Sign, he's mentioned multiple times that he likes to stick to the one knife lady, Baz. I like her too, she's great. The thing is, the main point of this game is to switch characters often to build up perks. The whole point is that from beginning to end, it's like you're playing a different game. By the end, you feel like a super soldier. Remember how in Returnal you'd get faster and more efficient with things as you played if you didn't get hit? That's what Concord is, but the way that it works is that you earn those by swapping characters on death. I know at first this might deter people. My first reaction to this is, nah, I just want to pick a character I like and stick with them. Well, the more I play, the more I disagree with my original thought. I think Firewalk pulled a, nah, we know best here. Also, I want to point out here that I totally respect Chris's opinion. I'm not saying he's wrong. I don't like being told that I'm playing a game incorrectly or whatever. That's not really what I'm trying to say. Honestly, I'm trying to blame Firewalk here more so. I totally respect Chris, his opinions, and honestly, the thing that's frustrating here is that whenever Chris talks about games, he's always talking about game feel and how the mechanics and systems interact with each other, and that's all that he really cares about. And I almost always feel the exact same way. That's what matters to me, and that's why I'm mind blown that he's not obsessed with this game. People chucking the term hero shooter at Concord over and over and over has done a ton of damage to its reputation. Sure, it is technically a hero shooter in some ways. However, before I would have called it that, I would call it an arena shooter and an action game. It feels like the PlayStation All-Stars FPS that never was. It's just that they used a new IP and people don't like the IP. There's actually something really interesting going on here too, in regards to people calling it a hero shooter. If you go to the PlayStation website and look at the official Concord page, it says, what is Concord? And do you know what it says? It says, assemble your free gunner crew and travel to Concord Galaxy to compete with rival teams in a 5v5 character-driven FPS. It's a team-based shooter where you assume the role of the crew of the North Star, a group of misfits, outlaws, and adventurers working as guns for hire. Now, I'm going to speak directly to you again, Colin. You're constantly talking about how people are always misusing terminology. or there isn't like official terminology and everyone's using things in different ways, so some terms don't make any sense. I recently made a video about Souls-likes that was, again, probably inspired by a lot of your conversations about it. People call everything a Souls-like just because it's partially a Souls-like, or it's similar to Souls games. It's Souls-like, it's not a Souls-like. That's kind of the point of the video that I made. And I think that's exactly what's happening here as well. This game has similarities to hero shooters. There are characters in it that you could call heroes, but they're not calling them heroes. I wouldn't call them heroes. I would call them characters. Just like I would call the characters in Super Smash Bros. Characters. I don't know if this is coming across the way that I want it to, but like this is how I view this. Everything about this game is a misrepresentation and a misunderstanding, it feels like, and like a failure of communication. This game is like visually at first glance presenting itself like it looks like it might be like Overwatch, but it's not at all, and they're not even calling it a hero shooter. Maybe they are somewhere else. I haven't done like intense research. It's possible that they've called it a hero shooter elsewhere, and that would totally be fine. My point still stands that in this one blurb here, the official statement of what Concord is, it doesn't call it that, and everyone is calling it that. And again, I'm gonna reiterate, I do not like hero shooters. When something is called a hero shooter, I'm like, yeah, I'm not interested in that. Because everyone that I've tried, I haven't really been into very much, including Overwatch, even though I liked it for a bit at launch. I think this is kind of important. People don't know how to talk about video games, and we like to label things with terms that are not necessarily accurate, or terms that mean something to somebody and mean something different to somebody else. And that just confuses everyone. I almost feel like Concord, to me, is like a different subgenre that I would call like a character action first-person shooter. Firewalk showed off characters first and tried to push them on people. What they should have done is focused entirely on game feel. To be fair, they did that too in the original trailer, which is what intrigued me in the first place. I get that this aspect is very important and there's a lot to discuss here. I'm going to leave it there for now. For added context, I'm not a fan of what are usually deemed hero shooters. I'm also not a fan of live service games, though I do love multiplayer games. I'm not a fan of sci-fi either. I'm not a fan of most of the designs of these characters. I'm very put off by Marvel-ish things, as I don't like Marvel itself either. I'm also not someone who has played very much Halo or Destiny, which this is clearly most closely related to, yet here I am championing this game. That's how good it is. If anyone from LSM has watched this video, I want to recommend my review that I posted on my channel in the most recent video about why Concord has the reputation that it has. I think it gives much needed context, coming from someone who has been involved in this nonsense since the game was first properly shown off a few months back. I'm tired of people turning everything into a political argument too. I've started mentioning that I think the people that went after anyone who was playing Hogwarts Legacy also suck for similar reasons as the people trashing on Concord. Anytime I say this on stream, it entirely silences them if they came to my stream simply to ask me why I'm playing a woke game. They don't even have their own opinion to spout, they're simply just moving from video to video, stream to stream, and attempt to bully people out of playing it. The biggest issues with the game are the price, which I personally disagree with and is a reason I resent free-to-play games, and the characters' designs. I agree that they are mostly strange looking. Outside of that, it's absolutely fantastic if you engage with the systems properly. It's an initial miscommunication on Firewalk's part, yes. For those who have played it for a while now, it's easy to tell that the discussion surrounding this game is almost entirely misguided. I would love to come on to an episode of Sacred Symbols Plus to discuss it further. It's been an absolutely wild mess, and I believe I might be one of the best people to talk about it. As a huge fan of LSM and a huge fan of Concord, I might just be the only person that is both of those things. If that's not on the table, perhaps watching my latest two videos will at least give you a different perspective to ponder as you discuss Concord in the future. That's fine with me. I just wanted to get the word out. There are lots of people enjoying the game that are very frustrated with how this has gone down. Thank you for watching.